I'm not one to do things in the right order. So at age 30, I decided to go back to school and start a degree in drama, as you do. The biggest part of the second year was a Christmas pantomime. And it was in that fortnight-long production that I'd hear something that would resonate and stay with me right up until this moment. Now, the best quotes are usually off-the-cuff remarks, and I forget the preamble, but I remember walking through a corridor one Wednesday afternoon, midway through the production of this pantomime, dressed as a very convincing Captain Hook, sporting a plastic tray with chips with cheese, and Gemma, who my lecturer at the time, I forget what she was talking about exactly, but the words, "the second act has the best tunes," shot through my mind like an arrow going through Isaac Newton's apple or something. I'm bad with analogies. And then I realized that I'm actually in my second act at that point. You see, my first act had a ridiculously bad climax, and quite frankly, if it were me watching it, during the intermission, I'd probably dump my ice cream and head out the door. And I very really did, too. I had a stroke when I was 20, and I was playing squash with my brother one random afternoon when I decided that the gym lessons that you do when you're in school, I can reenact these with my brother. So I thought it'd be a fantastic idea to do a roll down a hill, fantastic, easy forward roll. And I was getting very, very confident in what I was doing. And on the third time, actually something went completely wrong. And I twisted my neck, what I know now to be, I twisted my neck in such a way that I damaged a critical artery in my neck, and it caused a blood loss to my brain, which caused a stroke to happen. Although, obviously, I didn't know that at the time. Let me just nip that back. God, this thing's faster than I want it to be. So, after a lot of tests and much more therapy, than anybody needs to endure, I headed back to work. I worked at one of the world's largest banks as a business advisor, something that I really enjoyed. And when I headed back, I absolutely hated it. It was boring, completely hated it. So I switched roles. I wanted to be with more people. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but after doing a documentary and a few books and bits and pieces, I now know that the reason that was happening is because there were new connections forming in my brain because of as a result of the stroke that I'd had. But at the time, this had all become incredibly confusing. And as this internal struggle was going on, the world had its own problems, and within a few months, banks had decided that they could no longer afford to run the way they were running. So, in traditional mariner style, they threw everything that was excessive overboard. And if you'd seen photos of me then, I was excessive. So I was out. Personally, I'd been going through my own struggles at the time, and the personality changes that I'd had caused a deterioration in the relationship I had with friends and family. So coupled with everything else and losing a job, I was starting to feel very much alone in a world that was quickly shrinking with opportunity. Then, as the recession continued, my then landlord decided it would be a fantastic idea to evict me. Now, without my usual support network, I thought, right, what am I going to do here? So I packed up all of my things into the back of my incredibly nice-looking convertible and headed somewhere. Now, I slept in my convertible, which I can attest is not as comfortable as you think it is. I'd slept in there for 6 weeks with a lamp on the passenger seat and a lot of clothes in the boot. That moment of having absolutely nothing stays with me even to this very moment now. It's very difficult for me to throw away anything, as my partner will attest, particularly food. So, and I was trying to find my route to trying to get back to normal. Sadly, the 6 weeks I spent in my car weren't actually bookended with a really nice stay in a fantastic 5-star hotel with spa. No, why would it be? I was driving to get fuel one random afternoon when I was pulled over by the police, and they said, do you know this car isn't taxed and insured? And this very innocent look appeared on my face. Like, no. And of course I knew that because I didn't have any money. So that forced me to sell that car. But that sale did actually afford me to stay in a semi-nice hotel for a few weeks, and then at a friend's house for perhaps a few weeks later. Because as desperate as I wasn't actually prepared to take a handout. How stupid is that? But I wasn't. So as that weeks went by, I was getting a bit of a feeling inside, sort of a dread, worry, anxiety, sort of Rubik's Cube that I couldn't put my finger on. It didn't have any sort of outward emotion. Now, I remember taking a trip in the car. I don't tell very many people this, so bear with me. I say this as I told this same thing last week. But I remember taking a trip to my grandparents' house, and incidentally, they had absolutely no idea. I've gone off there. I don't know where the hell that's going. I took a trip to my grandparents' house, had no idea that with my housing situation or my job situation, and I know that my grandfather had morphine drinks in the fridge. So I decided to take those. And this isn't going where you think it's going. I'm not a drug dealer. And I decided that I would take a trip down to Penarth Beach. And on the way down on the train, I drank a few. And when I got to the beach, I drank a few more. And then I remember being in a hospital with my dad next to me. And then I remember the car ride home with my dad. And I remember that conversation. So as the curtain fell on my first act there, I kind of wondered where I would go, what I would do, and who I would be, effectively. So thankfully, I used what I would term as the intermission to rebuild myself, effectively, and become somebody stronger, different, better. And in the second act, as the curtain went up, see, I'm using these fantastic analogies, as the curtain went up, I was in a completely different place, emotionally and physically. And that was just a truly sort of different experience. I mean, my dad had helped me get a flat, which was great at the time. And I had gone to college to build up a little social group. And then I started with my partner my first business and became self-employed, and that was really empowering for me. And it was during that time that business became wildly successful and afforded me to have a safety net, which I had never had, and I hadn't had for previous years, back and back, time and time. That business, we worked incredibly hard at that business, with toil and determination. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy. We worked from 6 in the morning till 11 at night, 7 days a week, and we employed people to replace us only when we physically couldn't do the work ourselves. And I was really keen and eager to become my own safety net. Now, when we needed to employ staff, I thought it would be a great idea to make sure that no one ever got made redundant, no one ever, because I'd seen how that's happened. So we grew that team with a very strong and content workforce who knew they were going to never get made redundant. I always found them a random job. I've got this one guy who ended up he drove me around. What do I need that for? He was useless at what he did, but he was fantastic at driving. We grew to a very content, strong workforce of more than 200 people who worked across the UK 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Obviously not all 24 hours a day for the HR people in the room, but it was for almost a decade, and that went incredibly well for us. Oh, I'm going to go over, and there you go. As that business grew, it spawned other businesses as well, and that became my incessant need to make sure that I had a safety net there and a safety net there, to make sure if any business failed or something naturally dipped a little, that I would have multiple income streams to make sure this didn't happen again. And I was really, really proud of that, and still am really, really proud of that. Now, in 2020, I sold that company, the one that had started everything and given me the financial freedom. And the reason being was because I could no longer stay in that business after I broke the one rule that I set myself, which was to never make people redundant. And because in, obviously, 2020, we had this COVID-19. So yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but we had to make every member of staff redundant. And but thankfully, because of in part, the furlough scheme, we had always donated to homeless charities throughout that business's period. We were able to build a business and make sure that those people had somewhere to go. And I'm really happy that all of those people have been redeployed or have their job back now that the business is back up and running again after we sold it, which is absolutely great for me. Now, I wanted to just briefly chat about a journey that goes on here. And I just wanted to say that funny enough, the lecturer that I was talking about earlier, who said that sort of thing that stuck with me for so long, I was talking to her on Regent Street just like a few days ago, randomly shopping, and you see someone from Wales, you know, I know you. Because you know everybody in Wales. I don't know any of you, but I'll figure it out. And I passed her, and instantly that phrase sort of shot back across my mind, and it was the thing that I instantly remembered, even if her kids instantly remembered that I once played Captain Hook. So I guess I'm here today to badly paraphrase Shakespeare and say that the stage is yours, and you can do with it exactly what you want, because if your curtain falls on your first act a little sooner than what you think, it doesn't matter, because while the curtain's down, the audience is still there, and everyone is waiting for your second act, and they'll wait as long as it takes, because the second act has the best tunes. Thank you very much.